Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Dirty Pat Walsh channel on YouTube with me, your host, Dirty Pat Walsh. How's it going? I hope you're good. It's Tuesday. It's been a beautiful day here in Peterborough, Ontario. I hope it's beautiful wherever you are too. So we're gonna get a dip. Bong bong. Nice pinch of Bobby Stoker straight. Cheers, everybody. If you're dipping, I hope you're dipping something good. Stoker straight's pretty good. I'm not the biggest straight fan. I don't mind it, and it's the only flavor that we can really get in Canada. It's the only, Skull Straight, Copenhagen Straight, Copenhagen Long Cut, Copenhagen Snuff, and then the Skull Dark and the Southern Blend with Copenhagen. We can get that, but it's pretty limited. Anyhow, my point being, I'm not the biggest straight fan. I don't know why they call it straight. To me, it's just like a jumbled. It's a distinct taste, like a straight dip when you have it, but they vary so hard. Like Stoker, I like Stoker's. It tastes a lot different than most straight dips do. Can't stand Skull Straight, man. Holy fuck. But anyhow, this was gifted to me by Hillary Thompson. Hillary, thank you so very much. So yeah, if you're dipping, I hope you're dipping something good. So I'm just awaiting going to band practice. We have a late practice tonight. It's at 8:30, and it's gonna be a long day, man. But that's all right. It's all good stuff. So yeah, we got a late band practice, but I figured while I'm waiting around for that to manifest, I promised. I think I promised Mr. Spooky Holler a while back that I would tell the tale of my black metal band Adytum and the satanic rituals that we used to perform during our shows. And I know I've told these stories before on YouTube. I know Hillary will kind of probably like think, oh God, he's talking about this again, But I don't know, old videos sometimes are hard to find and whatever. I don't mind talking about it again if you want to hear about it. So, yeah, I do. Okay, well, what happened was I was out. This was when I was married, and I was out actually out book shopping with my wife at the time, and yeah, and this was like like when I was still reading a lot of books. Like I didn't have a cell phone. I was very computer naive. You know what I mean? And yeah. So anyhow, I was at the bookstore, and I saw a copy of the Satanic Bible on the shelf. Now this was like a Chapters or Indigo or something like that, and and I thought to myself, holy moly, man! I've been looking at this book. It's been looking exactly the same, since I started reading. Like since I remember it the first time remember going into a bookstore, like it's always been there. It was published when I was born just a few years after its publication, so yeah, it's always been in my life, and it's always been this taboo thing, the Satanic Bible. It's just kind of one of those unspoken things you don't fuck with, right? Or like that's how it was when I was a younger man. But I was standing there and I looked at it. I thought, you know what? They've been selling this book for $10.99 in every major bookshop I can think of all of my life. So what they sell it at Chapters. Like it can't be that bad. So. And I was in my 30s when I first read it. I had a very strong interest in the occult. I still do have a very strong interest in the occult. I was just messing with my tarot cards earlier, but yeah. So anyhow, I picked up a copy of the Satanic Bible, and I went home and I read it, and it was an easy read. It just took me like an afternoon to read, and and basically the book is set out like it's got all the theater of what it is, but it's also very straightforward. It's nothing what you might think a Satanic Bible might be. The first half of it is, or more than half of it is basically essays on the human condition. Talking about like when you're angry, it's okay to be angry. You're human. When if you feel that you want something, go out and get it. And it's basically like I read it and I thought this is the best self-help book I've ever read in my life. It really teaches you how to work proactively towards your goals. And then the second part of the book is the three main satanic rituals. There's a lust ritual, there's a compassion ritual, and there's a destruction ritual. And then after, and those basically they're just theater scripts, and on how to do these ceremonies, and or rituals. I mean, they're not ceremonies. And then the third part of the book is what they call the Enochian keys, and the Enochian keys are a set of little passages written in this language called Enochian, which is supposedly the language of the fallen angels, right? And yeah, I've read a few translations of them. They're very interesting, even just as works of fiction, Yeah, so, and I thought, in the first or the second part of the book, and like the rituals and the Enochian keys part work together, right? In creating these rituals. So I read it, and like I'm an old theater guy, right? Like I've done directing and acting and writing. I've done everything in theater, and I thought, man, these are just awesome scripts, like they're great scripts they would be great to make a show out of, and so what I thought in my head is, okay, I'm going to start a black metal band, and like Norwegian style black metal, and before the band starts playing, we're going to do one of these rituals, and it'll be like bona fide, like as close as we can get it to how it is in the book. A bona fide, real satanic ritual, Because I just look at it as it's just another work of fiction. You can take what you want from it. There's nothing scary or bad in it, certainly. And so, yeah, we do this. The only one we wouldn't do is the lust ceremony, because that's a private ceremony that you do by yourself. And it's not really appropriate for an audience. But mostly we would do compassion rituals and, wishing health for our friends, or, stuff like that, right? And there's a companion book to the Satanic Bible called the Satanic Rituals, which is all the larger ceremonies that they would do. So I got a copy of that, and it's the same thing. It's just amazing theater. So we put on. I think there was only one of the. No, we never did the traditional black mass, because actually it was kind of boring and long, and we never did I think it's called the Ritual of the Nine Angles, just because it was too difficult to translate, But yeah, we do these shows, and so what would happen is we do the ritual or the ceremony, and usually we'd save the ceremonies for like Halloween gigs or Walpurgis Nacht gigs, and so we do these, and then after we were done the ritual, because all the band would be helpers in the ritual, it was all staged and theatric, and we had candles and skulls and bells and gongs and crazy lights and all kinds of stuff, and yeah, so. And then after the ritual was done, the band would go and pick up their instruments, and we'd play like a half hour of fucking wicked black metal, and I would sing, and yeah, it was cool, and it just kind of fizzled out, but some of the show, every show that we did, we said we would always do a disclaimer saying, this is a real bona fide satanic ritual out of the Satanic Bible. If that scares anybody enough that they won't be comfortable being here, it's your time to go now, And pretty much always we had one or two people leave, Once we had like 4 or 5 people leave. It was crazy. But all in all, it was really good fun. And some cool stuff happened when we were doing it. Like, I remember we were doing a destruction ritual, just because I don't think we'd done one yet, and it was like aimed at something that was for the betterment of the community. You know what I mean? And so yeah, so part of the ritual is I acting as the priest would have to read these Enochian passages, right, in the language. And there's one of them that's kind of exclusively for destruction rituals. It's like a really it's got a lot of really dark imagery in it, and you're only supposed to use it for really serious, important business, right? So I was saying that, and now while I was doing this, the band was quiet, like we hadn't started playing yet. Everyone was kind of circled around me, like just lighting candles and stuff like that, right? And I was just saying this Enochian key, and I wasn't yelling it. I was just saying it in a calm manner, And right in the middle of it, the facing out, it would have been the right speaker, but from us it was the the left PA speaker caught on fire for no apparent reason. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, all in all, it was a really fun time, and like doing these ceremonies, like a lot of we had to do a lot of preparation for some of them. We had to make costumes for one of them. We had to make, I'd always have to be renting lighting for certain effects, and it was a really good time. Part of the satanic ritual is you're supposed to have a live nude female as your altar, right? The altar of the living flesh, right? And Satanism isn't devil worship. It's basically atheism with goth makeup. You know what I mean? Satanists are atheists. Satan is just seen as embracing one's own, like embracing your spot in the human condition, and allowing yourself to go with your feelings rather than restricting them because of some religion, that you were brought up in or whatever, yeah. So yeah, it was a very cool experience, and I'm glad we're still not doing it. It's funny because I actually got a really bad rap around town for being a Satanist, right? And because when we're doing these shows, I put it on like really, when I do a show, I try to do it, and so I got this rap around town about being a Satanist. Graffiti in the bathroom saying "Dirty Pat Walsh eats babies" and shit like that. But yeah, and it had even deeper consequences. But I won't. But I will tell you about this though. I know this video is going over. It's 17 minutes now, but this was one of the most interesting things that happened about the whole Adytum experience. Adu was a name from the Necronomicon. It's just the name of a demon that we thought sounded cool. So, but okay. So mainly my purpose in doing this project was to, I basically, it was because I'd read the Satanic Bible and I'd seen it for what it actually is. And I thought, hey, I can artistically put this on and maybe educate some people about what Satanism is. I live in a very Christian town, and just kind of dispel the boogeyman factor of it, right? And because honestly, like if you read the Satanic Bible, 9 times out of 10 you're gonna relate with it in some way, shape, or form, So anyhow, yeah. So my magical will, if you would call it, was to increase people's awareness about what Satanism actually is. Okay. So we did that through these shows and stuff like that, but it caused a really big controversy in town. Because I was a Satanist, and like it caused the church people were really upset that this was going on, and there was a Catholic church. It's up Hunter Street, and they would have. I got word that they were having a youth every weekend they'd have a youth prayer group, and they had a special prayer group going for me and the people involved in what I was doing, So that's kind of interesting stuff in Peterborough, So uh, the the paper got wind of it. It was the paper was it's the Arthur. It's like the student community paper. Um, it's cool. It's a cool paper. It's way more interesting than Peterborough This Week mostly, you know. But it happens during the school year, and but a lot of people read it, right? So anyhow, the Arthur got I think it was Nick Ferrio was the reporter, wanted to do a story on it, right? And so what they wanted to do is interview me and interview the church, right, and see what our points of view were on this. So I was of course ready for an interview anytime, and I'd love to do an interview. And the church replied with no comment, after they were asked a few times, and they didn't want to say anything on it. So I got interviewed, and I got to say everything I wanted to say about what Satanism was to me and how it appeared to be not, and it was totally different than this taboo thing. It was actually a book most people could probably resonate with. And so I got to give my opinion on what Satanism actually is, and it was kind of after that when the band fizzled out. But when I look at it from a magical perspective, my intent that I threw out to the world with great strength through this band. My intent was to, educate people on what Satanism actually was. And in the end of it, I got interviewed by the paper, and because of something, the church was upset with me, and we were both included, like, for the interview, but I was the only one who wanted to say anything. So I got to say everything I wanted to say about Satanism. And so therefore, if you look at that as a magical experience in itself, it was successful because my magical will was manifested, right? Magic's a really interesting thing. I don't talk about it a lot. It's a big part of my life. But yeah, that's the magical story of my black metal band Adytum, and all the story that went behind it. So yeah, all right. So this one's taken up 25 minutes of your time. So thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great night. Be well and stay free.